the old jar. Ouch! Oof, my arms are aching. I'll bet they'll soon be as long as the arms of a chimpanzee. Lisa pushed a strand of hair out of her eyes. Her hand was grimy with dust and left a trail of gray in her hair. Karen laughed out loud. With your hair all gray, you look like an old grandma. Oh yeah? What makes you think you look any better? Lisa pointed at Karen's head. You're not exactly a blonde anymore, I can tell you. And besides, a huge spider is crawling on your left shoulder. Oh, get it off me! Karen shrieked. Lisa brushed the spider off her shoulder. Karen shuddered. She hated spiders, especially those with long, hairy legs. Lisa, amused, watched the spider disappear under a heap of leaves close to the stable wall. She glanced at her watch. Lunch at last. Great. She was starving. We've already done a good day's work, Lisa said happily, and helped herself to a third slice of pizza. This is good. Lisa was in a good mood. That nasty feeling she had experienced earlier was totally gone. How on earth could she have thought even for 1 minute that there was anything wrong in the old stable? Ridiculous. The stable had actually begun to look rather cozy now that most of the clutter was thrown out. A lick of paint and better light would make it even nicer. The horses would love it in there, she was sure of that. Will you move Tinto and Raven into the new stable? She asked Marc. Tinto and Raven were the horses that Lisa and Karen cared for on a regular basis. Marc's mouth was full of pizza, so Lisa had to wait for his answer. I haven't given it much thought yet, he said, but the stable is in far better shape than I dared hope, so if you like, we can move your horses as soon as we finish the paint and repair the roof. I'm planning to put Adoni in here as well. His stall is too small for him, so I thought I'd knock down the wall between 2 of the stalls in the old stable. That should give him plenty of space. Adoni, a beautiful chestnut thoroughbred, was Marc's show-jumping horse and his pride and joy. Marc had a challenging week ahead of him. With the national show-jumping event taking place in only a month, he had to find time to focus on training. A newspaper had already predicted that he would be a strong candidate for the championship. Marc has a lot on his plate, Karen mused after the girls had gone back to the stable and started cleaning up again. I mean, with the twins and everything else, it's going to be hard to find time to train. Lisa shrugged. The riding school is closed for the summer, so at least he doesn't have to worry about spending time giving riding lessons. And we'll come here every day to help out with the horses, so he should have a fair chance of coping. Unless he gets so tired from staying up every night that he dozes off in the middle of a riding session and ends up in a heap on the ground. Karen giggled and lifted a bunch of old blankets. They were bundled up in the corner of the only stall that had not yet been cleared out. Ooh, yuck! These blankets are gross, moth-eaten and stinky. Disgusted by the smell, Karen turned her head away as she carried the blankets out of the stable. Lisa looked at the object that had been hidden under the blankets. It was a solid old wooden crate with a padlock that had probably been pretty foolproof when it was new. Now it was rusty, and when Lisa touched it, the lock practically crumbled in her hands. Curiosity got the better of her, and Lisa lifted the lid off the crate. Maybe there was something valuable inside. There had to be a reason why someone had bothered to lock it in the first place. But there was no golden treasure inside, just an old earthen jar. Lisa lifted it to have a closer look. The jar was surprisingly heavy. She noticed that the cork was sealed with thick layers of wax. All of a sudden, the stable felt very cold. There was an icy draft that made Lisa shiver. She glanced over her shoulder to see if someone had opened a window, but there was nobody there. Nobody at all. She was completely alone in the stable. Everyone else was outside. She could hear them talking and laughing. Goosebumps covered her body. All of a sudden, she realized that the cold did not come from the stable. It radiated from the old jar. Lisa noticed there was a kind of inscription on the jar, and then it happened again. She felt that strong sense of evil that had overcome her when she first entered the stable. Only this time the horrible sensation was 100 times stronger. Lisa screamed and let go of the jar. It fell to the concrete floor with a heavy thud. and crashed open, bits scattering across the hard floor. From the debris rose a sickening grayish-yellow cloud of dust. It enveloped Lisa like a heavy, suffocating blanket, and she felt a strong pressure against her head, as if someone was trying to force their way in. Then the pressure eased off, and Lisa fell to the floor, her legs unable to support her. She felt dizzy. Black dots were swimming in front of her eyes. For a second she thought she saw a shapeless shadow slide out of the stall towards the door. Then darkness closed in on her, and she fainted. A scary incident. I don't know what happened yesterday. I've never fainted before in my life. Lisa still felt shaky as she described the events to Tinto, her favorite horse. She combed her fingers through his mane nervously, trying to untangle some resistant knots. Tinto was a Palomino gelding, and to Lisa he was the most beautiful horse in the world, with his creamy white mane and tail. The only problem was that the mane, in addition to being beautiful, was also very thick, long, and unruly, so keeping the tangles at bay took a lot of effort, but it was worth it. Lisa took one step back to admire her work. He looked great. She considered herself more than lucky to be allowed to care for such a wonderful horse. She stroked his velvet muzzle, and he nickered softly, pleased with being the center of attention. Lisa felt a warm, contented feeling spread throughout her body. For a short while she almost forgot the scary incident from the day before. Just then Lisa heard footsteps. She turned her head and saw Marc striding towards her. What was this? He was carrying the jar that Lisa had broken yesterday. Now the jar was back in one piece. Lisa felt sick to her stomach. How could the jar be whole again? Was it magic?